How can introverts change things?
I think that's a great question. And I think automatically of Dag Hammarskjöld and how his idea of the knowledge of the self helps you to better understand other people and it helps you to understand the world around you. You have to know yourself because, as I just said, entrepreneurship, owning a business, managing people, having employees of your own, going from a situation where you're the worker bee to all of a sudden you're the boss, that's not always a ticket to freedom. And it's not necessarily something that everyone is cut out for. It's not necessarily something that everybody wants to do. And that is perfectly fine. So I think we have to really know ourselves, know our strengths, and know not only what you're good at, but what you really feel passionate about. What turns you on? What is it that will get you out of bed in the morning? There is this saying that if you're doing something you love, you'll never work a day in your life, but that's not true. Even though I have stepped fully into being a writer and a creative, there are still times that I do things that I don't necessarily want to do. It's not always the most fun experience to go through and proofread or do a preliminary edit of your own work. Sometimes you're just like, man, I'm loosey goosey. I'm in the flow. I don't want to go back and edit today, but you know that you need to do that. Or you may write a scene that you feel like is absolutely breaking your heart into about a dozen pieces. I'm reminded, for example, if you'll allow me a short segue here, I'm reminded of how Brando talked about what it was like for him in his landmark breakout role as Stanley Kowalski on Broadway in A Streetcar Named Desire. In so many ways, that character forged his trajectory. And he would get upset when people would meet him on the street and they would think he was Stanley Kowalski. He played that part so well that people thought he was just simply being himself. And it would make him upset that people couldn't see a distinction between Brando and Kowalski. But he talked about the emotions. And on days when there would be a matinee performance, in addition to the nighttime performances, he would just dread it because he was a method actor. And so he would have to really just dig deep and get into these emotions. You know, Stanley is being abusive and he's drunk and he's crazy. And one minute it's all about love and passion. And the next minute he's throwing a radio out the window and he's getting drunk in a card game. And Brando would really challenge himself and channel those emotions to get into that character. And by the end of a performance, he was wrung out. And sometimes that happens when you're painting, you're sculpting, you're writing a scene, and you're like, oh, I'm so into my biographical subject's thoughts or a fictional character's thoughts. And I'm so depleted. I'm so exhausted after doing this. So if anybody thinks like, oh, if you just do what you love, you're never going to really work at it. It's like, no, you're going to have to hone your craft. You're going to have to improve yourself. And there's going to be times when you may have to do some things that you don't enjoy doing. I mean, even for me, keeping books, doing some of the admin clerical things that I do behind the scenes, sometimes it's like, I don't really want to have to deal with this, but I know that it needs to get done. I need to accurately report my finances. I need to pay my taxes on time. So it's not about just saying, oh, well, if I just do something I love, every single day is going to be sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops. And I think for introverts and HSPs, figure out what you're good at and what lights you up. What do you want to do? I mean, I was great. I was fantastic at staffing, recruiting, and HR, but it was not lighting me up. I was exhausted. The job market has been so bad for so long with no real signs of improvement. And I think we're at this place of real change in society and probably not for the better. You know, when you look at what someone like Yuval Noah Harari is saying about the future, the advent of AI, it's going to look like an alien invasion. And you'll have this whole cadre of people that he called, not me, but that he calls the useless class who can't find jobs and they don't really seem to have a purpose in society anymore. That's scary. And I think, not to sound alarmist, I'm just giving my opinion, and that's all it is. It could be wrong. But I think one of the reasons why we're seeing this just malaise and the constant layoffs and the just people saying that they've been unemployed for 2 or 3 years and they have no serious prospects, I think part of that is this shift. I really do. I think we're going into a different kind of world where the job market and the available jobs are going to look different. So I really do think that it's more important than ever to figure out what you want to do, what you're good at, what lights you up, and then from there, how do I take that into my career? How do I get to do that every day so that I'm not trapped in the corporate hamster wheel and I'm not feeling like an introvert that has to fake being an extrovert, or an HSP that feels like I have to toughen up or suck it up, I can just get away from that toxic environment. I mean, sometimes you can change it, sometimes you can't. Sometimes escape, quite frankly, is the best solution.